Today we're taking a look at the patch notes for patch 7.8, the God of the Moon update with Tsukuyomi. Briefly going to look at the bonus balance beforehand, but we're going to go through that relatively quickly just to have it out of the way. The skins I've already shown you very recently, we don't need to look at that. Shadow Steel Shuriken gets a buff with the cost being decreased by 100 and the power being increased by 10. It was just not really used yet and they want to see if it's any good basically. Golden Blade gets a nerf. I think this one is very warranted. The attack speed is decreased from 20 to 15%, and the minion AoE damage is decreased from 75 to 50% on the item's passive. So this definitely affects laning, because obviously it's going to take you longer to clear. The interesting question for me is how much of a difference this makes in jungle, because typically if you focus the main target, then the side minions, the smaller ones, die quicker anyways. So the question is if this is enough so that when you kill the main target, the smalls will still have some HP, and at that point it would really make a difference, otherwise it would not really affect anything. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very important nerf, because Golden Blade right now makes the jungle meta very stale, but we'll have to try how it feels after this change. And depending on how it goes exactly, it could be enough or it could be barely any difference because you won't really feel it. Going to be interesting. The attack speed decreased by 5%. It's not really that much, to be honest. Next one is Serrated Edge, increased cost from 2,400 to 2,550. Very much fair. It's a strong item with a strong effect, and yeah, just a little more expensive for what it offers. Completely fair. Spear of the Magus also gets a nerf, with the cost being increased from 2,450 to 2,600, and the duration of the passive being reduced from 10 seconds to 7 seconds. So you have to apply it a bit more frequently, but you can't apply it as often because it also has an increased cooldown from 10 to 15 seconds. So overall, definitely still a strong item in my opinion, because when you get the effect on someone, then they will take a lot of damage very quickly. But now you can't just consistently reapply it, but there's a time frame in between where it won't apply. So you better apply your burst to them quickly and have your teammates engage on them quickly, because otherwise you're going to get in that period where the effect won't be applied. I think it still has value for supports anyways through this. I think it's not going to go away, but it is quite expensive now, so that's going to be an issue if you're using this on support at least. Heartseeker, decreased physical power from 75 to 65. It was just a strong item overall still. Just taking a bit of an edge off there. That's completely fair. Soul Reverse, same treatment. Just these anti-tank items shouldn't be like so multi-use, I guess, and therefore that's getting a nerf as well by 15 magical power, which is actually typically less than 10 physical power. But yeah, Typhon's Fang gets a fix because it was providing 10 more magical power than intended. So in a sense, it's getting nerfed, but it's just a bug that's been fixed. Ring of Arcade increased the cost from 2,500 to 2,600 and removed the healing increase per stack on the item's passive. I don't think this is going to be enough. I think it's a good change, but I think the attack speed and power and lifesteal on the item combined are still way too strong, even for that price point. Especially the attack speed is very, very strong on Freya for her early game. And it's still something like, still a very strong all-rounder item in so many regards after this, that I would still rush it on every mage ADC regardless. Warrior's Bane was basically glitched, giving people more than 40% pen, and that's just fixed, and now it has 10% physical penetration stat. Soul Eater gets a nerf. The base bonus, or the base physical power, is decreased from 30 to 20, and the total physical power on Evolved Soul Eater is decreased from 40 to 35. So it's mostly a late game nerf. It's mostly an early game nerf and then a little bit of a late game nerf. I don't think it's going to be felt super strongly on Assassins at least, where I think this item will keep value. For Hunters, yeah, you might have to look into it a little bit more with the comparison with RC specifically as well, but I think it should still be worth it overall. Hand of the Gods gets its damage increased from 170 to 200 so that you can one-shot the smalls with it again. So that's nice. Bakasura gets basically his changes reverted somewhat. I'm not sure if it's, yeah, they say that's just reverting it because he's strong now. He doesn't really need those buffs anymore. The heal is reverted was reduced from 85 to 70%. On his Eat minion, and the protection gain is reduced from 10 to 42 to 10 to 30. Camazotz is kind of getting a bit of a preemptive nerf because he's so sustaining now and most other gods are not. His protections, base protections, go down from 13 to 11, physical base protections, and his Devour decreased heal per hit from 10 to 50 to 8 to 40. I think he's still going to be strong. I'm pretty sure he's still going to be strong. It's just some minor tweaks here, really, because he still has a ton of sustain anyways. Cthulhu also gets his nerfs. Rushing Terror gets a 10 damage decrease on the dash, like across all ranks, and a 10 damage decrease on the projectile. So a 20 decrease in total on any rank of the ability, which I think is not that much, but a little bit, I guess. And Sever gets the base damage reduced on early ranks, going from 120 to 340 to 100 to 340 now. I think that there is still a need for nerfs after this, but yeah, I guess it'll take time. I guess they're just trying to nudge him into the right direction without over-nerfing him. Raijin gets the magical scaling on his Percussive Storm, decreased by 5% because he's just very strong, especially on high levels of play. That's fair enough. Ratatusker, the Evergreen Acorn, the healing one, decreased physical power from 35 to 25, just so it's not as oppressive in terms of damage if you're playing him in a solo or in support. And Bristle Bush Acorn decreased dart bonus damage from 40 to 35%. This affects both the base damage and the scaling of the dart as well as the crit that I think is on Bristle Bush as well. So effectively, this can take away a fair bit of damage. I would not be surprised if we see further nerfs later, but at the moment, the win rate with Bristle Bush apparently doesn't really justify that, based on what Ajax said recently. And that brings us to this part. Your new god. And that is Tsukuyomi. We started with him right here. And this guy, it's a bit crazy. Shingetsu and Mangetsu. Tsukuyomi wields Shingetsu in his left hand and Mangetsu in his right hand. When these weapons damage an enemy, they become empowered. Empowered Shingetsu gains a 50% cleave and restores mana. Empowered Mangetsu deals bonus damage and restores health. So the mana heal is 2 plus 15% of your physical power. And I think this lasts for a little bit. From what it looked like, it lasts like, must be like 2 seconds or something. It doesn't actually say here. But I'm not sure if it just lasts for the next hit. Like if it's just an empowering for one hit or if it's just for like a brief period in general. And the heal is also, the health heal is also 2 plus 15%. And then the bonus damage that you can get is also 2 plus 15%. So it's very interesting, especially for solo lane as well, because obviously this cleave can help, the sustain can help, the mana sustain can help, but you need a fair bit of power, I guess, to really make good use out of it. So it's not going to make you super sustaining. It depends a little bit on how exactly it works, which is unfortunately not explained yet, if it's like for multiple hits in that time frame or just for one. Next one is his one, Darkmoon Shuriken. Tsukuyomi casts upon Shingetsu, summoning forth a Darkmoon Shuriken. The Shuriken damages an enemy, or damages enemies rather, and stops on guards, sticking into them. If Tsukuyomi gets close to the guard, he retrieves the Shuriken and reduces its cooldown. He doesn't have to attack the enemy, he just has to get close to them. It's actually a giant Shuriken, by the way. After casting this ability, Shingetsu's next basic attack becomes ranged. This attack steals movement speed from the enemy hit. So, Shuriken damage 85 to 285 plus 90% scaling. Pretty high scaling, but not insane damage overall. Like, good damage, but not like, oh my god, the craziest damage ever or something. 40% cooldown reduction on this if you pick it up out of the enemy. I don't know how exactly they'll work with any cooldown reduction you build, but I'm assuming it'll just basically be less than, because it just reduces whatever you have by 40%. And the movement speed steal is 25%. This means the enemy is slowed by 25%, but Tsukuyomi is also 25% faster, which is really cool. And I like its mechanic as an engage mechanic. Mana cost goes from 50 to 90, pretty normal, and 10 seconds cooldown. So the base cooldown here is also already relatively short. That is maybe a bigger issue for the damage, because if you get CDR, you get that down to 6 seconds, hit the enemy with it, and then you can reduce it even more, and then you can basically throw it again onto them. That, I think, might be a more concerning part in terms of his play style. Something worth testing out for sure. His second ability, Oh god. Kusarigama. I call it that. Shingetsu and Mangetsu form themselves into a Kusarigama. Tsukuyomi swings the weapon to his left and right, damaging and disarming enemies hit. So it's like a half circle to his left, a half circle to his right. And then he swings the weapon forward with more force, stunning enemies hit. So that's like a line attack in front of him. While chanting, Tsukuyomi gains 33% movement speed and is immune to knockback effects. I guess that kind of stacks with the steel here as well. If you can somehow manage that, you can get even more movement speed. You can get super fast and really charge towards the enemy with a bit of their movement speed and increased movement speed at the same time. And you can't even get knocked back. So the swing damage is 35 to 135, plus 50% of your physical power. They didn't show it, but I would think that you can hit an enemy twice with that. So you turn your camera to the left and you turn your camera to the right. But they didn't do that once, so I'm not sure if it's actually possible. Then the disarm is 1.5 to 2.5 seconds, depending on the rank. And the final damage here is 70 to 290 plus 80% physical power. This is where we're really talking high damage compared to that one, I would say. Because we're looking at 135 each if you can hit both, or 135 once, plus the 50% scaling, and then the other 290 plus 80% scaling. So 130% scaling and upwards of 400 base damage. So that's solid. And maybe even 500, maybe even 180% scaling. So we'll find out if you can actually play it like that. And then the relatively short stun of 1 to 1.4 seconds, but I don't think he needs a longer stun anyways. 14 seconds cooldown, also not super long. Mana cost 70 to 90. So this is his hard engage tool. And then he has a third ability, Silver Moon Caltrops. Tsukuyomi holds Mangetsu aloft as it erupts into starlight, sending stars falling to the ground. As they land, they become caltrops, damaging enemies in the area and slowing them for 2.5 seconds. Enemies who move inside this caltrop field take damage and are slowed again. After casting this ability, Mangetsu's next basic attack becomes ranged. This attack deals true damage. So this ability is very interesting because it has this moon shape in front of you. It's like sickle shape, basically. And it's a relatively wide area, though, towards the middle. So this is something that I would throw out towards the escape path of the enemy when you're chasing them down. Damage here is 20 to 90 per shuriken. I don't know how many you can be hit with max, but you can get hit by quite a few. 25% scaling, not super high damage. It's not meant to be a main damaging tool. It's more a CC tool. 15 to 25% slow. I mean, they discussed on the patch note if you should match this, max this second, but I don't really see it yet unless you can really reliably apply a lot of the caltrops in one go, but I think that's kind of hard. And then the true damage doesn't scale up for the bonus basic attack. So this is 5 plus 40% of your physical power, which is actually pretty nice as well. Not going to be some insane number on its own because, physical power doesn't scale that high, but still, you can get a solid 100 damage out of that, I guess, at some point. And it's 40 to 60 mana on a 14-second cooldown as well. Excuse me, it's very late here. And then we have Piercing Moonlight, the ultimate. Tsukuyomi channels the power of the full moon, gaining crowd control immunity and 50% damage reduction, which is huge. I don't know why, but hey, you can actually use this as a defensive tool through that, especially in combination with a long crowd control as well. He fires forward 4 powerful piercing beams of moonlight. Enemies hit, take damage, and become marked. Each beam can hit up to 3 enemy guards. After firing all beams, Tsukuyomi charges forward at the speed of light, dashing through all the enemies in the order they were hit, dealing heavy damage. Tsukuyomi will end his dashing at the final enemy hit. So he just kind of dashes around like crazy if you have multiple enemies around. I guess if you just have one enemy around, it will just hit that one enemy. And I guess you can't apply it to them multiple times. I'm not quite sure. Maybe you can hit them with a beam multiple times, but I don't think you can get the dash going multiple times. So yeah, big teamfight ability, and again, also a lot of damage reduction, crowd control, immunity along with that. And then you also are, dashing around very quickly, but it's not really an escape because you can't dash away from anyone. You can only dash towards enemies, and then you're kind of right next to them, basically. So you have to make sure with this guy that you know when to engage. Beam damage is 110 plus 20% of your physical power, so not that high for a single beam. And the dash damage is then 215 plus 55% of your physical power. Cost is 80 to 120 mana and a 90 seconds cooldown. I gotta say, looking at the kit and looking at the damage numbers as well, I don't even know if I would necessarily max the ultimate. We'll have to see, but I think the damage from the 1 and 2 is much more frequent and reliable compared to the ultimate. And a lot of his fights will be about that. I think a lot of his fights will be about that poke and then hard engage with your 2, throw out the 3, and hope you can kill them quickly enough. Maybe we'll get some amplifiers for the basic attacks along the way as well. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how the piercing Moonlight will fit in there, but it looks really cool, so that's a bonus. Overall, I think he definitely sounds very strong, especially in terms of the damage output that he potentially has. But he does sound risky. He does sound risky in the sense that once he's in, he really can't get out very well. And you want to make sure to kill the enemy. And I like that. I like a high risk, high damage, single target focus kit. And I think that's exactly what we're getting here. So, good stuff. Like, I'm very happy with all of this. All right. I can't say how strong it will be. We'll see that on PTS. I think he will be towards the stronger side, but it's going to be very hard to find that out until he's not on PTS anymore, actually, because we'll need to see how fair matches between experienced players will go with this. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting how much you can get out of this carry and how much you can punish him as well. He does have a fair bit of CC immunity, which definitely helps. Then we have some new skins here. I'm just gonna very briefly scroll through this. This is all this new moon skins. You can watch all that in the patch notes if you want to see them in more detail. This one is in the Cosprey chest, and this one is in the Raven chest. So they are their own thing. And then we have Tsukuyumi's recolor here, as well as special recolor and the gold skin. And the golds and legendaries look super cool on this guy because the weapons always get different colors. Like the diamond actually looks really cool, and usually I don't even like diamond skins that much. So that is something to look forward to as well. Okay. Update release schedule. Yeah, we got just the bonus update that we already talked about. Then we have Tsukuyomi and everything on August 11. And then, yeah, the rest comes later. Okay, Project Olympus, just gimmicky stuff here, really. Icon for Enhanced Fire Giant and Jungle Practice stuff. There are some relevant things here with the Jungle Fog that basically you can't disable it anymore from the next patch onwards. It's all explained here. I kind of already went over this in the patch notes shows thing, so we're just not gonna do that again. So from next patch onwards, not in the INI anymore, but you can modify the INI outside of that however you want. Don't modify other files though. Ratosca is gonna get his tail glow back as well. So all of his new skins that didn't even have that yet will have that as well, which will be really, really cool. And the only time you don't have it is if you know Acorn yet. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing all those and how they will look in game. And the floating Acorn will remain with him in game along with the tail glow, so you still have some other visual indicator as well. Some bug fixes with the chat box and stuff that's still being worked on because it's still not fully fixed yet, and they're hoping it's going to work fully. By the way, I don't know if it's mentioned later, but the guards are disabled at the moment. Hera and Artio are meant to come back as well. Yeah, there was some glitch with early surrenders, but they changed that a little bit now. So if somebody's disconnected for more than 90 seconds, down from 3 minutes, you can, but before 10 minutes, then you can do the early surrender. If a team surrenders before 10 minutes, all players who disconnected for at least 90 seconds will receive increased MR and TP loss. And if players on both teams have triggered early surrender, it's likely the game isn't in a good state, and the game match results will be discarded, so players on both teams can get a healthy match faster. Players DC'd when this happens may still receive the circle status, however. Just to make that fully clear. Some item fixes where things didn't show up yet and stuff like that. And some guard fixes. We're not going to go through all of them here. Unless, yeah, it does mention Hera and Artio being playable again, because they crashed the game before. So that's at the next patch, not at the bonus balance. And now we have something really cool. There's a map lighting update for better performance. Let's see if we can open that in a new tab so I can actually show you. So this is going to make the game perform better, but also look nicer at the same time. So yeah, switching between those, you can see like a few lighting differences. It just looks a little bit more yellow goldish. Oh my god, I never realized how bad these trees actually look. And you can also see it here on the fire giant area. It's just a lot more vibrant, a lot warmer. So I think this new color effect basically looks a lot nicer. Here you can see it on the rocks a little bit. Not so much on the right side, even though there's a little bit of glow over here. But I think that'll mostly stay dark. But yeah, just some nice little things. I guess also maybe in preparation for the next patch. And yeah, there's a bit of a fix coming along with that. Gold Fury, Oni Fury, Primal Fury cannot be reset in a way anymore where you can interrupt their channel. They'll always channel now. Pyromancer also does larger damage now, and with its AoE specifically. And Centaurs from the speed buff, the spear thrust ability has a higher base damage now, 45 to 55, and the scaling goes up from 12 to 18, so that's more annoying. You actually have to juke it more, which I'm not a fan of, to be honest, because it's already annoying enough to pull enemy creeps out of the camp this way, so eh. And dual matches will no longer award first blood gold bonuses to players who have first killed the enemy guard, so it's a lot more balanced for that mode specifically, where first blood shouldn't be that valuable. Mask item trees. Skip over this a little bit. Ragnas gets a damage taken increase reduction. So you take less damage, so 25% extra, you take 20% extra now. Luna's mask increased projections from 35 to 40 and increased health from 200 to 250, so make it a little bit more tanky overall. And Bumba's mask is removed from the game for now. They're looking into an alternative option, what they can do with that. So it's not gone forever. They want to have a third mask there of some kind. Stone of Binding gets 10 MP5. I really like that because I like this item for aggressive support plays in early game. But it does often lead to you not having that much mana. So that will offset that in a very nice way. Reinforced Greaves and Shoes both get their HP increased from 100 to 150. I think this is actually huge because I think these shoes are generally not picked up that often, but actually very valuable in some situations, especially against specific guards. And giving that even more health, making them early tanky options that are relatively cheap, I think that's a lot. Especially if you consider other items at the moment, like, you know, the Sledge having a lot of health, which, by the way, they're not nerfed. Or also Son of Gaia, which benefits from you having more health by giving you more health. And so, yeah, all works very well together. Achilles gets a base increase here on the shield of Achilles. 80 to 300 to 100 to 320. So actually quite a fair bit, 20 flat, which is especially important on early ranks. A bit surprised here, but apparently he doesn't really have a place at the moment. Equally surprised at the Athena change, where her Defender of Olympus mitigation that she gives to her ally when she teleports to them is increased from 20 to 30%. And now we're getting to my favorite part next to Tsukuyomi of the patch notes, which is Awilix Buff. I actually want to read this. Awilix has strong moments to shine, but even in strong matchups, she struggles. Yes, absolutely. And mid-season seems to have taken a toll on her power. Awilix is getting some help in both managing her playstyle with a reduced mana cost burden and indirect power feather step base damage. Additionally, Tsuku has learned to strafe more effectively, making it easier to position during combat. So I brought this up to the Olympians right before the last feedback round. I said Awilix is not in a good place. Suggestions that I had was brief CC immunity on the ultimate, which I think she should still have. I still don't get why almost every guard comes with long full CC immunities and she doesn't even get a brief one, like just a half CC immunity basically, even though her ult is so much more conditional than many others. And my other suggestion was to give her, that wasn't actually for me, it was from somebody else, but to give her a short dash. I think it was Dragon Tyrant actually who brought it up first. So that it's like just a little bit of a dash forward, not something long, but while she jumps onto Tsuku, she just moves a little bit out of the way, and then she has the proper leap. Could even decrease the leap range in return, because that would be really cool to give it just a little bit of immediate mobility when the animation of that is so long. The reason why I suggested these changes is because I never thought that they would do the actual change that I was hoping for, but they actually did. So they increased the base mana from 220 to 240, fine. They increased the MP5 per level from 0.27 to 0.46. Actually, pretty solid increase here, which you'll definitely notice, and she will definitely need that. And that ties in with something down here, which is the mana cost for this ability going down from 50 to 70 to 30 to 50, and you keep this ability on rank 1 like until late game, so it's going to be 30 all the time. Much less punishing. But the big one, the really big one that I did not think they would do, is they increased the feather stab damage from 40 to 180 to 50 to 190. And that is absolutely massive, because that is basically what it used to be once upon a time, and then they kind of went away from that suddenly, and it was really sad for everyone who played Awilix. And now they decided that they're bringing that damage back, and she's gonna be a more relevant character in early game again. I mean, it's a different time now. Jungle camps have more HP, and I mean, even Nemesis has more damage on a 2 now, but I think it's very good that they're doing that again. I wanted to make a video talking about this specifically, and I think I still will. I think I still will discuss all of this in detail with all the things that she went through, her competitive performance and everything, because it was already in the works, and I found some interesting stuff. So we'll just this will just be the conclusion of it at the end then. And yeah, the other thing that was changed here is increase the strafe speed on Tsuku by changing hard cap on movement speed from 225 to 275. Updated ability description to show this is a speed cap and not a percentage reduction of speed. Fix an issue where this ability would go on cooldown if interrupted. So this was very annoying, but this was fixed in 7.4 already. So I'm not quite sure how this strafe thing will feel now, because the hard cap means that if you build more movement speed, it still won't matter for that. But we'll have to find out how exactly it feels. It seems like it might feel a fair bit better. Overall, I'm very excited, and I think this is long overdue, even though I know some people will disagree. And I think Awilix is still a very conditional character, so this makes me very happy that she's getting some love. Another character that always deserves love is Bacchus. Decrease the base damage from 20 to 80 to 25 to 85 per tick of Belch of the Gods. So it can add up quite a lot considering it's per tick. And yeah, he's just not doing too well in Conquest, so now he's getting some love this way. Even though I could imagine that after this patch he might actually naturally go up over time anyways, because there's quite a few other things that affect him anyways. Bastet hasn't really been doing all too hard after the initial potential of the rework, and now the pounce damage is increased from 90 to 100% scaling. Fair enough. Nothing much to say here. Cabrakan. This is weird because I'm going to read this one. It doesn't make much sense otherwise. Cabrakan has not seen much play for a long time. While we meme him as Fat Loki, he struggles as a guardian, and even when going damage, it's difficult to really lock down opponents. Seismic Crush will now be a consistent 1-second stun, giving support Cabrakan a consistent moment to play off and lessen the diminishing returns inherent to his abilities. Tremor will also no longer cause minions to spiral around, making it easier for Cabrakan to group up minions for himself or his teammates to clear. So it pulls the minions in directly now. That part makes sense. That's easy enough. That's cool. But the Seismic Crush is like, the stun from this ability no longer suffers from diminishing returns. Okay, it doesn't suffer from them. But does it still apply them? Because what if you use his 2 after his 1, which I know in many situations you're going to do. You're just going with the 1 and then drop the 2. Does it not affect the 2 anymore either? Does it not affect the 2's diminishing returns? Because if that's the case, then it's strong. But if not, then it's not that strong. It's also kind of inconsistent because other stuns normally have diminishing returns, so it's like a special rule basically. I don't know. Could have just given him a mini knockout, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting anyways. And then we have Chalk. Decrease cooldown on Rain Dance from 18 to 16 seconds. Chalk's not super OP, he needed some self-sustain, fair enough. We'll see how it goes after this patch and everything, but nothing big here again. Kukulin, about to be in Ground Slam, decreased cooldown from 16 to 12 to 15 to 11 seconds, so just a 1 second reduction here. just to give him a little bit more in return for Glad Shield being gone. She Who Shall Not Be Named, Spirit Ball, decreased cooldown from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. She has not been doing very well, apparently like bottom 3 or something. I think this reduction is actually huge. I think max CDR could be very interesting. It's like a 6-second Spirit Ball spam. But we will see how it feels. I like it though. I think it's interesting. And last but not least, Osiris Judgment Tether increased damage reduction from 10 to 30% to 15 to 35%. Also somebody who worked very well with actually both Glad Shield and Berserker Shield, even though Berserker Shield wasn't that popular. And now, yeah, without those, he's got to get something else. And they don't want to buff his early game because his early game is already strong. So they're buffing his late game through the mitigation here. And his boxing a little bit more, I guess. That is it for the patch. A lot to go through here. I'm very excited for Tsukuyomi and for Awilix, obviously, as somebody who used to main her for a very long time. And yeah, I really like this patch. I'm really happy about literally anything in this patch. And I've got nothing more to say. If you enjoyed this, feel free to sub button and ring the bell if you're new to the channel, so you get notified of all the other Tsukuyomi stuff and my upcoming Awilix montage. Not a montage, but you get what I mean. And other than that, see you for the next one soon. Duke Sloth, out.